Hi, everybody. Today we have someone from the land of TikTok. I started following Web3 through his account on TikTok. He does much, much more than just, having a TikTok account, which is why, Santiago, I am here to talk to you about your Web3 journey and much, much more. So I'm going to give it back to you so you can introduce yourself.
Of course. So I'm Santiago, aka Inspire Investing on
Yes.
TikTok. So just to give you a quick background on me, um, I first started off, studying finance before I moved into Web3, and then I got into content creation at the start of the pandemic. And initially, I started off with just like traditional finance concepts and education, and then a couple months into that, I started posting about Web3, about cryptocurrencies, and sort of took off from there. I originally had like an interest already in Web3 and in crypto, but
Mhm.
creating content, I'm sure you as well, you understand that once you start making it, you start learning way faster than if you weren't making content and you
Yep.
fall in love with the concepts that you're talking about even more. So that was sort of the process for me. And then from there, I actually switched my career and I got full time into Web3. And that's where I am today. I focus a lot on content creation as well as social media strategy
Mhm.
for Web3 startups. So that's
Cool.
about me. Yeah.
Nice. And maybe can you talk more about how did you get involved in Web3? Like, why are you passionate about it, or where does this come from?
Yeah, yeah, of course. So I got in, like I said, at the start of the pandemic, and it was actually a friend who first got me into
Mhm.
Web3.
It's
He
always
introduced
these
me to
guys,
cryptocurrencies.
It's always
It's always a friend who's like super
them.
passionate about it and gets
Yeah.
you into it. And so he taught me how to buy like my first cryptocurrency, and that's sort of
Nice.
where I
Wow.
learned about Bitcoin, about
Hmm.
Ethereum, and I sort of just went down this rabbit hole of
Hmm.
learning more concepts from there. And I think, the thing that just excites me the most is that, we're still super early in the whole scheme of things. Obviously, there's a lot of question around regulations and, the future being unpredictable, but I definitely think that this technology can better people's lives.
Hmm.
And because we're so early, there is a huge amount of opportunity. And, the barrier to entry is low if, you spend a couple of hours
Yep.
understanding what Web3 is, right? It's not something that's gate kept like
Hmm.
traditional finance, where you have to go to a top university to break in,
Yes.
all
Yeah.
about that.
Mhm.
But yeah.
I love that you really mentioned that part in terms of, comparing it to how we learn concepts in traditional finance versus,
Mhm.
concepts of, let's say, DeFi, decentralized finance. But I would really want to understand, like, what was your process of learning, concepts in Web3, tokenomics? You have a
Yeah.
series of about tokenomics and Web3 101 on
Mm.
TikTok as well. For shout out for anyone who's starting off, so they can go check it out. But
Yeah.
I would love to understand, like, what was your process of learning and getting a, solid grip on these concepts?
Yeah, I would say first off, like I guess having like a background in finance definitely helped
Mhm.
at first with
Yep.
grasping some of the more financial concepts within Web3. But most of the learning really came from, I used to think the first platform I actually learned about Web3 and about crypto was on YouTube. And then from there, I learned about crypto Twitter. And obviously that's
Mhm.
like my go-to now. And there's a lot of good people to follow on there and to learn from. And it was just like I wouldn't say there is like a set path to learning about
Yep.
Web3. It really is, you're learning from all these different sources and you make the most out of them, um, putting them all together. Another really big thing that helped me was trying to start my own projects and
Yeah.
being involved with startups because,
Mhm.
there's only so much you can learn from like watching videos and,
Yeah, that's
scrolling on
true.
Twitter.
That
You
is
really
so
have to get
true.
your hands,
Hmm.
you have to get your hands dirty, right? Like you have
Yep.
to really try to do this yourself. And that's when you'll learn the most, and that's where I've learned most of what I've learned today. One is for people who don't have a professional background, which I know I
Right.
have a very young audience on TikTok, and so some of them are still in college, some
Hmm.
don't really haven't had any
Yes.
professional experience beforehand, and so the answer to them would be to first, again, really understand sort of the fundamentals of Web3, which you can learn
Hmm.
just by on the internet, on Twitter, on YouTube,
Yep.
but then really get involved in communities. So on crypto Twitter, join spaces, join, find a project that you're passionate about, join the community, really connect with the people in there, and
Hmm.
really get a sense of like the culture of Web3 because that's like a really important part.
Yeah.
Is like it sounds like kind of stupid, but like the memes and everything like that, like it's still very important to
True.
understanding, the culture. And so that's one thing I would do for them. And then the second thing would be to learn sort of an in-demand skill.
Mm,
So right now, I think the two sort of easiest things that a young person could do to really like set themselves apart is one, I think social media content creation is something that anybody can do, and it
right.
really just takes it just takes consistency and posting, and you'll
True.
learn how to
Mhm.
optimize your posts and really putting together good strategies to grow engagement. And those skills that you learn are um, hireable skills. So companies are always looking for social media managers, for community
Mhm.
managers. So I think that would be like one of the easiest ways to break in is through content creation and
Right.
social media. The other one would be if you're a little bit more technical,
Mhm.
learning how to program, right? Learning blockchain development, those sorts of things. I think right now it's like definitely in demand, and you could definitely get like an entry level role at a smaller project and build your
True.
experience up that way. And so that's sort of my advice for people who don't really have that professional background is to go for those skills that are in demand yet are accessible to you to learn, and you don't really have to go get a degree to
Mhm.
uh, to
Yeah.
understand. And then for those who do have a professional background, I would say it's actually easier, right? I would say the most important thing is that you really pick up on the culture and like the fundamentals of Web3.
Right.
But there's companies everywhere that are hiring roles, and they don't necessarily care that you understand you're an expert in Web3 because the skills
Mhm.
that they're looking for may be not necessarily like Web3 oriented, right? They might need someone for like operations, they might need somebody for product management, all these
True.
things, and you can pick up very quickly if you already have that professional experience. So
Very
those are
true.
sort of my two answers.
Mhm.
Um, to find jobs and job listings, I would say the top two places I would look, web3.career usually has updated roles daily, and
Mhm.
cryptocurrencyjobs.co.
Is this your first Web3 job with Digital Village? So you're working as a content creator for them
Mm-hmm.
as well. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
we can go through your journey with them and what do you do exactly?
The funny thing is, I posted about Digital Village before even knowing anybody, any connections to anyone on the team. I talked
Wow.
about them on my TikTok, and the video did very well. And the founder and CEO, Evelyn Mora, she reached out to
Mhm.
me and she was like, "Oh, thank you so much. Like we got a lot of
Wow.
followers and a lot of people
Mhm.
joined our community." And we just kept in touch over like the next couple of months, and they raised a pre-seed funding of like $2.2 million, and
Mhm.
they're starting to grow their team. And she reached out to me, and she hired me to join the Digital Village team, which I would say that's also a really good thing to point out is
Yeah,
you make these connections and you never know where they're going to go. And so I would
exactly.
say like
Yep. That's the beauty
when
of
you
it.
meet someone,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah, when you meet someone in Web3, right, like don't ever expect anything in return. Like literally just like reach out and connect with people and provide
Mhm.
value to them. And maybe at some point in the future, that connection becomes useful or something comes out of that connection, right?
True.
Like you never really know. Like it's the funniest thing. Like over
Mhm.
time, you have these connections come back to you and
Wow.
positive ways. Um, but yeah, so at Digital Village, I was initially hired as a community manager
Mhm.
to like sort of grow their community, manage the social medias, sort of like the mix between community and like a social media manager.
Mhm.
But recently, like we sort of were pivoting sort of the business model to be more focused on B2B. So we're working with a lot of big fashion and beauty brands that are wanting to get into the metaverse and wanting to build virtual environments. And
Wow.
so my sort of job shifted from managing the community and socials and creating content to that to creating sort of like creative strategies for these brands.
Right.
Uh,
Wow.
so lots of these brands, like I would say, especially in the fashion and beauty space,
Mhm.
um, they're not like tech experts, right? Like they
Very
don't
true.
like they
Yep.
understand, they know they want to do something, but they don't know exactly what they want to do, or
Mhm.
some of them do, but majority don't.
Because I feel like as someone who, again, does content on your own as well, but then also works
Mm.
for a brand that now allows you to work with other brands, I think it's like a constant, stretch of mind that you need to come up with
Oh yeah,
ideas. And of course, all Web3 strategies will not be working for all the brands that you're working with. So I really
exactly.
enjoy that, journey for you. But yes, it is hard to make content for your own personal channel now.
Hmm.
And this is something that you sort of have talked about on your TikTok as well. But I would love to know
Hmm.
more about how do you make the most of your day, like in terms of
My day, right.
like continuous learning, where you want to learn
Hmm.
about Web3, and also you have a, like a workplace where you get paid to learn in a sense, right? Because everybody's
Yeah,
trying to figure this out. Nobody knows,
exactly.
everything. So I would really want to know more about that, like balance that you're creating for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it isn't really like a day-to-day thing for me. I
Hmm.
think I have like these seasons where,
Yes.
a couple months I want to focus on this, and then
Hmm.
I'll come back to social media, do my own
Yeah.
thing, and another couple months I'll do something else. But right now, I think, especially in the bear market, social media, like you'll see it like posting content, you get a lot less engagement right now because
Hmm.
sort of the interest in crypto and Web3 has sort of gone down.
Yep.
And so my strategy, my train of thought is I wanted to get my hands dirty, right? I wanted to work full
Hmm.
time in the space. I wanted to learn as much as I can. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to go back to my social media and be able to talk
Right.
about all my experiences and everything I've learned about.
Wow.
So that was sort of like my strategy behind it.
Hmm.
But in terms of like managing time from day to
Yes.
day, it's different for everyone, right? But for me, especially, I am a morning person. I
Hmm.
cannot work like late at night. Like I'm just not productive at all. And
Right.
so I wake up early and I write down like my to-do list of things I need to do,
Hmm.
and I try to work through them in the mornings, and get it all done by like 1 p.m.
But yeah, this is my productive time slot as well. Where I work on my
Really?
passion projects. So yeah, it's
Uh-huh.
really cool.
That's
Where we're
awesome.
both talking about like, different timings of productivity, and here we are literally
Mhm.
in that time zone as well. Pretty cool.
Right. It works out well, right?
Yeah. To know like what are the trends that you see in Web3, considering the bear market and also, the fluctuation of
Yeah.
interest and everything else. Like where do you see this going?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot to say
Yeah.
to answer that question,
Yeah,
but from
true.
my perspective,
Hmm.
especially because I talk to these like brands in the fashion and beauty space every day,
Yep.
like trying to get into the metaverse. I
Hmm.
think there are a lot of brands that want to spend a lot of money trying to activate, like their Web3 and metaverse strategies. But there is like definitely, I'm not going to try to like sugarcoat it and say like it's all
Yep.
going to work out, right? There definitely is like the metaverse and Web3 is an unproven concept, right? So there
Hmm.
is a lot of uncertainty in the future.
Yep.
I definitely think that there's a lot of parts of Web3 that are going to die off due to regulation, and we've already
Hmm.
been seeing this. Um, but I think it's hard to say actually. Like I really I want to say that everything is going to be fine, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
there is that level of uncertainty. But in terms of what I do with my job, um, I think that lots of these brands that I'm working with, they're going to be launching really big initiatives around Web3 and the
Hmm.
metaverse very soon. And
Yep.
that's going to sort of have this chain reaction because the way these brands work, it's very much they don't like launching or taking risks by themselves. But if they
Right.
see a group of other brands doing stuff, they
Very
hop on the
true.
trend and they immediately try to do it. And
Hmm.
so once one big brand really establishes themselves as Web3, like for example, Starbucks
Hmm.
partnering with Polygon, right,
Yes.
for the reward system, something like that, but on a larger scale
Hmm.
where more people and like non-coiners and non-Web3 people are interacting with these systems, that's going to set off a chain reaction. And so I think lots of other brands are going to hop on and move through that space rather quickly. So it's just a
Wow.
matter of time until we see that.
Mhm. And I think this is really interesting that you're mentioning that, like getting people who are, let's say, non-crypto into this crypto
Hmm.
space, whether it's, traditional brands hopping onto it, trying to, reinvent the wheel and be like, okay, just
Hmm.
curiosity and willingness to actually like adapt to this newness of the whole, concept that everybody's trying to learn and get a grip of. I would really
Hmm.
like to understand in terms of community building, since you've done that
Hmm.
on TikTok for your own brand, as well as, Digital Village and other brands that you're working for.
Hmm.
I would really like to understand, since you've also mentioned about culture, right? So how do
Hmm.
you build a culture in a community in Web3?
That's a really good question. So from like my personal communities, right? The number one thing to really build a strong community, like I would say that's the first step, is to make sure you guys have a tight knit community before starting to build like more of the cultural aspect of it,
Right.
is to um, provide some sort of value to them. I think from a content creator perspective, um, is to provide some sort of value. So when you're making content, it's like you have to drop everything and basically give all the time back to your community. And I
Right.
think that's what really helps it grow, because once someone sees that you're being, when you're not, you're like unselfish, and
Mm-hmm.
you're really just there to share your passion with them and to provide value and help them. That's what brings people into a community. And then from there, it's all of them. Like from my experience, it's just a matter of showing up every day,
Yep.
and answering questions. And once you have this sort of system in place where you have some content or some platform that's driving traffic into a Discord or another community
Mhm.
platform, from there, it really is just about retaining those users. So interacting with them every day, making sure you're building real connections.
Wow.
Like I think that's another thing is like, if you're in a community, or if you're a community manager,
Mm-hmm.
people can tell when you're like being fake, and
Yep.
when you're not, being authentic with them. And so really building connections and talking about stuff outside of
Mm-hmm.
Web3 as well, and building like real friendships with these people, that's what really makes a loyal community. Because once new people join, then the people who are already loyal members will interact with
Mm-hmm.
them and create connections with them. And it's just sort of this flywheel that keeps going. Um,
Anybody watching, we're talking about an account that you've built from zero to, let's say, over 250K followers in
mhm,
1.5 years on TikTok.
mhm, yep,
And this was when I think there were very, very few creators talking about Web3, and which
mhm,
means that there was a lot of, sort of speculation, like,
yeah,
is this someone who's just chilling, or do they want something out of
yeah,
it? Or can I actually trust this creator? Can I actually learn with
mhm,
them or from them? So how did you come into this space and, grow with an audience that's
yeah.
really big right now? And it's amazing to see that growth, honestly, as creator and also someone who's been a part of your community. So how did you do
Mhm. Yeah, of course. So I think what you're saying is absolutely right. Is
that? Hmm.
right off the bat, especially when someone hears the word crypto or
Yep.
Web3, they just immediately think, like I'm shilling, or it's
Hmm.
all speculation. Which in a way, there's a point to that, but like that is just complete gambling, right?
Yep.
And so I wanted to shift my content, purely on educational and showing
Hmm.
people how to get involved in Web3. Right? When if you scroll through like the past, I don't know, 50 videos I've made,
Hmm.
um, none of it is about price. None of it
Yes,
is about
that's true.
like speculating or trying to
Hmm.
get rich. Right? It's about taking the opportunity to join a rapidly growing industry at a very early stage.
Yep.
And that's one thing that I really wanted to communicate in my
Hmm.
videos was Web3 is at such an early stage. There's a lot of funding coming into the space. There's a lot of companies hiring,
Yep.
and it really is a way to break into an industry and get professional experience if
Hmm.
you're a younger person, without having a degree from a top university, without having all of these maybe like family connections to some of the
Hmm.
top firms. It really is a way to get involved in a really good way. And so that's one thing I wanted to communicate in my content,
Hmm.
is that there's a movement. Like I always stress like this matter of urgency as well in my
Yeah.
videos. That's like the time is now. You need to act
Yes,
now.
that's
There
true.
really is no, from my like from a young person's perspective,
Hmm.
you're not risking anything, right? Like if this works out for you, like it's going to be amazing. If it
True.
doesn't, you have other options, right? You're
Yes.
already learning skills that can be applied to other industries other than Web3.
Hmm.
And like there, in my opinion, like there really is no risk. And it's such a really, I think it's like an amazing thing for young people to get involved.
That's
And so that was sort of my message behind the videos. And I think
true.
once people see that and that I'm really passionate about it, that's sort of what brought people in as well.
Wow. And can I also ask, like, what's your vision for the community that you're trying to build?
Yeah, of course. So I'm actually really glad you asked that, because I'm in the
Mhm.
middle of like re-strategizing how
Right.
I'm going to
Yep.
come back into social media.
Awesome.
Um, from my point of view, right, with like content creation, monetizing like your page and your channel has
Hmm.
to be done very carefully. I don't want to ever, like promote,
Hmm.
really risky cryptocurrencies or promote things that are
Right.
just not good for my followers.
Hmm.
I want to create something that's beneficial for them and can add value to them, while also, generating revenue, because obviously this
Yep.
takes up a lot of
Mhm.
time.
Exactly.
Um, we have to find a really good balance. And so my plan right now, from what I can tell you, from what I've thought of so far,
Mm-hmm.
is to create a community that's about getting people involved in Web3, or getting like a job in Web3, right? And so I
Right.
wanted to build a
Amazing.
community around this,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to tie it to an educational aspect as well. So if somebody knows they want to become a
Mm-hmm.
blockchain developer, we have a list of resources on how to learn. We have people to
Oh, I
connect
love
them
that.
to,
I love that. Yeah.
and so they join the Discord, and I've built up a good network of people I know in the
Mm-hmm.
space who are brilliant, and I think would be just as excited as onboarding users
Yep.
as I am. So um, having someone new come in, learn about Web3, learn about the possibilities of working in Web3,
Mm-hmm.
going through the job requirements, figuring out what sort of their passion is, whether they want to work in product or they want to do community management, social media management, or development, and connecting them with someone who can help
Wow.
them and sort of mentor them, and
Yes.
just creating this one like really big social, educational, and professional hub. That's sort of what I want to do, and that's sort of my vision is. That's where my passion is.
I love that
um,
so much.
and so that's sort of like what I'm thinking of, and that's
Mm-hmm.
like what I'm planning right now,
Mm-hmm.
as I go back to social media.
I love that you mentioned that because it honestly completely synergizes with the sort of vision that I have for this project, investing at 25.
Hmm.
And I know that your, vision is more focused on Web3, whereas mine is
Hmm.
more focused towards anyone in their 20s specifically. Just,
Hmm.
sort of act as not a guide myself, but, connect them to resources that help them guide themselves in terms of how
Hmm.
to invest their time or energy or, their money. And like you mentioned already, I think in the last couple of sentences where you're like, creating content does take up time. And you want to make
Hmm.
sure that it also, generates revenue in the end, because again, you're putting in a lot of resources, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I would really want to know more about, since we're talking about that, part of, investing time and money, like how
Hmm.
has that journey been for you in terms of being a content creator? And how was this journey for you, as someone starting off in Web3?
So when I first got into Web3, obviously, um, I wasn't investing that much money to start with,
Hmm.
but I was lucky enough to get into crypto like right when the bear market was ending into the new bull run, and
Right.
so I saw a lot of. I was able to capitalize on the opportunity
Hmm.
and take profits at the right time and make sure that I had capital to use when the next bear market hits.
Right.
Um, but I think like one thing to really understand, like at least from my point of view as like a person in their early 20s, is
Mhm.
to really think of it as like a everything is education, right? You're all
Yes.
of this is a learning experience.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of like there's a huge mindset, especially in Web3 and in tech, that you have to
Mhm.
be extremely successful. You have to be extremely rich when you're young, especially in
Yeah.
crypto too.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
there's this mindset that's pushed that everyone needs to be filthy rich by the time they're like
Hmm.
25, right?
Hmm.
And I think
Oh my
that's
God,
like
I'm so glad
really
that you're talking about this. Oh, oh my God. Like
yeah, I
honestly, this
think it's
was the
just
reason why I even started this project. No joke.
really
Because it's, let's say, for example, when people turn like as soon as they turn 20, 25, whatever, these are
yeah.
sort of milestones, right? And I
Hmm.
don't I wonder why, but as soon as you start adding a zero or a five next to your double digits, it already turns into like, extra pressure that's added on you by
Yeah,
society for some reason.
definitely.
And whenever like you Google investing at 25, the first thing that pops up is invest in S&P 500. These are the annual returns and so and so.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
go to TikTok, it's a complete different shift, right?
Oh yeah.
The content that's being pushed out to teenagers, people in their 20s, is more focused on overnight success, the hustle
Yeah.
culture, like
Hmm.
short, like quick wins. And I'm honestly
Yeah.
so glad that you're talking about this right now. And also that you mentioned that you went in with, let's say, a smaller amount in crypto,
Hmm.
like trying to test and dip toes around and then see if it makes
Yeah.
sense for you. Because if you were like, okay,
Yeah.
I went in with 10K or I went in with 20 and I went in with all my savings inside, like, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be like,
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think also, especially for people who maybe don't have a lot of funds to start
yeah,
off with,
yes.
it makes way more sense to use your money to like learn hireable skills and
I
to start your career in Web3. And then from there, you can work to increase your salary and then
sure.
invest, most of your income back into crypto.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, like I definitely think the hustle culture is pretty toxic, and I think
Yes.
it sets a lot of
Yeah.
unrealistic expectations, especially with influencers on TikTok,
Mhm.
talking about doubling your money,
Yes.
basically gambling, right? Like I think it's
Hmm.
such a toxic environment, especially if they have a lot of like uneducated young users that they're taking
Exactly.
advantage of. I think that's
Hmm.
super toxic.
Hmm.
But I definitely think like, it's all about like delayed gratification. It should be you're learning about crypto. If you invest your money, like
Hmm.
don't expect to make insane returns. Really just take
Hmm.
the time to um, get used to the ecosystems, right? Using
Right.
and accessing, decentralized applications, maybe doing like dipping your toes in DeFi, doing all these things. Don't think of it as a way to like make a lot of money. Think of it as a way
Yeah.
to learn and
Hmm.
sort of build off of that.
Wow. But where do you invest your time, energy, and your money right now? Like in
Mm.
this phase of your life?
So right now, I mean, I haven't been investing in crypto during
Hmm.
the bear market. I know like everyone should say, "Oh, prices are down,
Yeah.
you should invest," right?
Yep.
But I am holding off. I'm
Hmm.
already I have a sizable portfolio, and
Hmm.
I don't want to keep adding more to it right now. And I think
Yep.
it's fine the way it is. And I've been spending a lot of my time learning skills that I think are going to help my career. So I
Yes.
want to continue with social media and building,
Hmm.
a community. I think so many opportunities have come from social media.
Very true.
I've been in contact with like introduced to some of the biggest brands. I've
Hmm.
met with you know, um, one of the biggest launch pads in crypto, Dow Maker, and I met their CEO. And
Nice.
I've worked with a lot of the
Hmm.
startups that he's incubating. Um, I mean, I got my job at Digital Village through
Yep.
TikTok. Like, there's so many opportunities that come from lots of people seeing your videos, and I think it's
Hmm.
amazing. And
That's
so
true.
that's something that I want to keep doing. And like I said, after I build this plan, I'll sort of come back into social media
Yep.
full swing. Another thing is I want to become more technical with my career. So right
Hmm.
now I'm obviously doing a lot of social media, a
Yep.
lot with the community, but my end goal is to have either like a developer relations or like a developer role
Nice.
in Web3.
Yep.
And so lots of my time has been going into learning,
Hmm.
blockchain development, learning JavaScript, all the different frameworks. And
Wow.
that's sort of where most of my time is going right now,
Hmm.
other than work.
Love
But yeah,
that.
that's sort of my goal right now.
Awesome. No, that is actually so cool. And especially you're talking about developer relations, right? In
Hmm.
terms of building a new skill set. And I think that is so important because I realized that in my first Web3 job as well. I was doing that as a part-time.
Hmm.
So I was working with a startup in Estonia that also recently raised, I think, Series A. And
Hmm.
for them, I was the first marketing hire. But for me, it was so different to even talk to an audience that was just developers because I hadn't
Yeah.
done that before, right? And the way you
Hmm.
talk to developers about a Web3 product is completely different than
Oh
how
yeah.
I would gauge or talk to my audience in Web2, right?
Hmm.
So I think that definitely has been a learning point for me as well. So I completely vouch for that.
Yeah. That's
But
yeah.
yeah,
I'm super
so
excited
I
for that.
really appreciate that you mentioned that because again, talking to different audiences and different brands is a completely different story. But
Hmm.
yeah, my last question for you, Santiago, would be
Yeah.
considering this is catered to the youth, catered to people who are starting off, whether their careers, whether in Web3, whether in life,
Hmm.
trying to figure themselves out. What is your message or advice, just in general, to people, let's say, who are dipping toes in different domains like you are,
Hmm.
or especially for Web3 as well?
Yeah, definitely. For Web3, I would say the time to act is now. And that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean invest your money and,
Yep.
go complete degen and throw
Mm-hmm.
all your money into
Yeah.
cryptocurrencies. That
Mm-hmm.
means learning about the technology, learning skills that
Mm-hmm.
are in demand. So either development, really learning how to, like like a marketing
Mm-hmm.
expert, like
Not an
how to do
expert.
marketing, uh, how to do social media,
Yep.
and really understanding the culture of Web3. I
Mm-hmm.
think those things are very attainable right now, especially, and you can get paid a lot of money if you know how to do those things.
Yep.
And so those are what I would focus on now. Investing can come later when you do have, you
Mm-hmm.
know, um, a high paying salary that a
Yep.
high paying job that you can invest most of your income back into cryptocurrency or whatever. But I would say the focus right now is to learn skills and to
Nice.
create connections within the space because we are still early and everything you do right now is going to pay off in the future. or at least that's the way you should think of it, right? Like everything is going to have some sort of positive benefit. You're going to look back in the future and be like, oh, I'm glad I did this, right? I'm glad I made this connection here. I'm glad I learned this, and really start pushing it that way. But that's sort of my advice to the people who are young, is to really, really take the advantage right now, and take the risk to jump into Web3.
Amazing. That is amazing. Thank you so much for that. And
Yeah,
honestly,
of
from my
course.
side, if I can just say one thing, I
Yeah.
am a part of your community and I would love to see it grow. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.